Hello Planet Internet, I'm Emperor Cole from MindBender Entertainment, and this is my top 10 anticipated movies for 2022. I'm going to give you a quick list as my top 10, and of course I'm going to let you know my 2 cents on what I think about the actual trailers from what we've seen so far, and I'll let you know the release dates for the actual movies. Everybody, let's get ready to take this ride together, and of course make sure you jump in the comment section, let me know what your top 10 movies are that you're waiting for this particular year as well. Okay, so the very first movie that I want to mention is actually an honorable mention. I have 2 of them that I want to bring up. So the first honorable mention that I have is actually going to be the film Morbius. Now this movie is another big movie that's been added to the Sony Spider-Verse of actual films. Morbius, of course, is biochemist Michael Morbius is trying to cure himself of a rare blood disease, and he ends up giving himself vampirism, where basically he turns into a vampire, obviously. This character is based on the Marvel character that of course has been in the comic books and the one from the actual cartoon. I'm interested to see what Sony actually does with this character, because they're adding him to the mix in the whole entire their Spider-Verse, basically MCU. So I'd like to see what they do with him, whether they're going to make him a hero or a villain, and how is he going to end up juxtaposed to Spider-Man. Of course, there is a rumor that they postponed this film, of course, because of the coronavirus and the fact that movie theaters might be shutting down, or that of course they want to make as much money as possible. But there was some speculation that part of the reason why they actually decided to push the movie back to April 1st was because they want to add Andrew Garfield, add some kind of a scene with him, maybe a post-credit scene, or kind of work him in there somewhere because of the success of the actual No Way Home movie and how well he did playing, reprising his role as Spider-Man. So it will be interesting to see what they do with that. But honorable mention number 1, Morbius. Honorable mention number 2 is the movie Ambulance. This is a Michael Bay film, and it stars Jake Gyllenhaal and Yahya Abdul-Mateen. So now in this particular film, I believe Mateen's character is a war veteran who's back home. His wife becomes sick with some type of a disease that the insurance company does not cover. So the 2 of them are playing brothers, adopted brothers, I believe. And Jake Gyllenhaal's character comes up with this idea that they should rob this bank for, I believe, like $30 million. He decides to go along with it because obviously he wants to save his wife. So in the process, they rob the bank, but of course the police get hip to him. They hijack an ambulance, and in this ambulance, they take an EMT worker hostage, and there's a police officer who's injured that's in the back. So they're trying to perform CPR and all kinds of life-saving techniques on him to keep the police officer alive while they're trying to escape the actual Los Angeles Police Department. The trailer looks very exciting. I mean, I'm a pretty big fan of Michael Bay films for the most part. He's got a couple obviously that I don't like, but I'm a huge action type of person. I like action movies. Action sci-fi mystery is my deal. But of course it's Michael Bay, so I'm expecting explosions, I'm expecting chases, I'm expecting random shootouts with lots of things that go boom. So I like the trailer. I'm looking forward to the film. The movie comes out February 18th. Kicking off the list at number 10, we have The Batman. This movie is slated for a March 4th release. And of course, this is a reboot of the character. This movie will be starring Robert Pattinson as the actual lead character, Bruce Wayne / the Batman. It's directed by Matt Reeves. Matt Reeves, who also directed Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, War for the Planet of the Apes, and Cloverfield. All 3 of those movies I enjoy a whole lot. Films I like a lot, so I trust this director to make a solid film. Me, myself, I'm not too big on Robert Pattinson being cast as the Batman. And I mean, we felt the same way about Ben Affleck when that initially happened, so I'm going to at least hear him out, and I'm obviously going to go see the film and see what I think about it for myself. But the actual trailers look pretty good. The movie looks dark and gritty, and of course in this particular film he's going to be up against the Riddler. Catwoman's also in the film. In what capacity, I'm not quite sure, but she's definitely in the movie. And in this particular movie, like I said, this movie looks very dark and gritty. It almost looks like if they turned the movie Seven into a superhero film, because it looks like the Riddler is actually taking people out. And like I said, this doesn't look like your typical, this doesn't look like a happy film. It looks very dark and dreary. So, and it looks very practical too. So like there's not gonna be a whole lot of flashy stuff in it. So going off the trailers, it looks solid. I'm willing to check it out. Number 10, The Batman. So at number 9, we have the movie Black Adam. This movie, of course, is going to be starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as the title character, Black Adam. What's intriguing about this film is the character historically is a villain, is the #1 villain that primarily goes against Shazam. So how they're going to do, what they're going to do with his actual character, and how they're going to make him the good guy or the villain in his own film is going to be pretty interesting. This movie was originally announced, I believe, back in 2016 or 2017. Warner Brothers and DC have been through a couple executive changes in this particular time period. So I guess we should be thankful that this movie wasn't lost in the sauce and it didn't get erased from the slate, and here we are all these years later. It's actually getting a release date. The film is actually in production, so I'm looking forward to seeing The Rock in this role, and I can't wait to see what actually happens to it. This movie has a July 29th release date. It's coming out in summer blockbuster season, so of course it has high expectations behind it. But at number 9 we have Black Adam. At number 8 we have Jurassic World Dominion. Of course, this movie is the actual dinosaurs this time, where they have now integrated into society. They're running into people, they're eating people, and they're showing how people around Earth are having to deal with dinosaurs in everyday life, and them showing up in the streets when you're driving on the highway. When you're at the beach, a dinosaur shows up and attacks someone, as opposed to it being a shark. This is the Jurassic World movie that I think everyone's been waiting for, where there are dinosaurs now everywhere, and people are dealing with them on a full scale. And they're showing what society's trying to do to combat them and how we're just basically dealing with it. So judging by the trailer, this movie looks awesome. I'm 100% all in for it. This movie is directed by Colin Trevorrow, who also directed the original Jurassic World film, which did great at the box office and reinvigorated the whole entire franchise. He also directed the movie, I believe, Safety Not Guaranteed, which was a small indie film about time travel, but I enjoyed that movie as well. So I trust him to do a great job with this particular movie. Chris Pratt returns to star in it. So at number 8, we have Jurassic World Dominion. This movie is set for a June 10th release date. I'm all in and I can't wait for it. Coming in at number 7, we have Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. This movie is the follow-up to the 2018 movie Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So now this was the first movie that decided to break open the actual idea of the multiverse, of there being multiple dimensions of the same exact characters. This movie stars Miles Morales, of course, instead of the original Peter Parker, and this film did very well, the initial movie. So this one is the follow-up. Looking forward to it. The movie's coming out October 7th. In the trailer, we see Spider-Gwen return, and she just randomly shows up and comes to a portal and has a conversation with Miles Morales. He's in punishment in his bedroom and he's not supposed to go out, but of course she entices him and says, hey, can Spider-Man come out? So he ends up going out the window with her, and then they show him going through the portal. He's going across the Spider-Verse, and when he gets to this new world, the first thing that happens is he gets attacked by the 2099 Spider-Man. This movie looks intriguing, and I can't wait to see what this movie's all about and what they actually do with it, what characters they introduce with it. So I feel like Sony basically hit a home run with this film the first time out. This was a surprise hit, and they did a great job at reinvigorating a different version of the actual Spider-Man character and taking on the whole multiverse idea. Of course, Marvel decided to adapt and use some of it with their film No Way Home. With the other Sony movie No Way Home. They decided to do it again and show the multiverse and the different versions of Spider-Man. Great job. Looking forward to this movie. Can't wait till October shows up. My number 6 most anticipated film of this particular year of 2022 is going to be The Gray Man. This movie is a film that's going to be directed by the Russo brothers, the same exact Russo brothers that did Captain America Civil War. They did Captain America the Winter Soldier. They did the Endgame films. And of course they did Infinity War. So in this movie, Gray Man, it's going to star Ryan Gosling as an ex-operative, like spy type operative, where the agency he used to work for has put a hit out on him, and that hit is being carried out by none other than Chris Evans, aka Captain America. So in this particular film, he's going to be chasing him around trying to kill him. The movie has a lot of international locations where it's primarily set in Europe, I believe. The Russo brothers were producers on the 2020 movie Extraction that starred Chris Hemsworth. So this particular film is another Netflix film. It doesn't have an official release date just yet, but it is slated to drop, I believe, in the late summer of this particular year. Coming at number 5, we have the movie The Northman. This film is set for release on April 8th. It's written and directed by Robert Eggers. Robert Eggers, who also did The Lighthouse and The Witch. I haven't seen either one of these movies, but they did well as far as critics and audiences, I believe. So in this movie, The Northman, this movie stars Alexander Skarsgård, and I believe he is a young prince, a young Icelandic prince set in Iceland in the 10th century. He witnesses his father get murdered or ambushed, so he's the young prince that has to run away to avoid being killed himself. They show how he goes through the struggle of growing up kind of out in the wild, out and seeking refuge in many different places. It's an adventure of how he grows up and then comes back to try to get his revenge on the people who actually killed his father. So this movie gives off the vibe of that TV show Vikings, and even though I've never seen it, I've seen some of the trailers and some of the previews for that particular movie. Very visceral, lots of action, and just one of those films that's very grounded in reality. So this movie, going off the trailers, looked pretty good, and it's coming in for number 5 for me, The Northman. Coming in at number 4, we have Thor, Love and Thunder. So now in this particular film, we have Natalie Portman returning to play her role as Jane Foster, and in this movie, she's going to end up with the powers of Thor. How this happens, I have no idea. There's a comic book storyline of how it happens, but I'm not very familiar with it. Maybe Thor becomes unworthy for some particular reason, and somehow she becomes worthy. Not particularly sure, but I'm interested in seeing how they do it in this particular movie. Of course, Taika Waititi, the same director who did Thor Ragnarok, he's coming back to direct this movie. Chris Hemsworth is going to be back as Thor, obviously. And in this particular movie, they're introducing a new character played by Christian Bale, Gore the God Butcher. So I'm not very familiar with that villain, but that's who the primary villain in this particular movie is supposed to be. This movie's set for a July 8th opening, and of course, it's another movie in the MCU. Thor is the first character to get his 4th film, so I'm excited to see what this movie is going to be. It'll be the first movie, I believe, from what I'm hearing, is supposed to be somewhat of a quote-unquote superhero romantic comedy. So we'll see how they actually do that. Taika Waititi does well with comedy, with being able to blend action and have comedic elements without it being corny. And he does it in such a way so that it blends in very naturally. So a romantic comedy that's a superhero film in the MCU, they've hit so many home runs and they're on such a winning streak, I believe they can pull it off. And coming at number 3, we have the movie Bullet Train. So now this is a movie that stars Sandra Bullock, Brad Pitt, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Michael Shannon, and Zazie Beetz. In this movie, they're all assassins who end up on one train that's in Tokyo. Not quite sure where it's going, but it's going from Tokyo to one other place. And they're all basically trying to get this briefcase. What's in the briefcase is not clear, but they all have history together where some jobs went bad and some of them have beef for the people who were killed in the past and things of that nature. So they're all trying to get this briefcase. Of course, this movie is directed by David Leitch. David Leitch was the director of Deadpool 2, Hobbs and Shaw, and Atomic Blonde, and he was a producer on the original John Wick film, and I believe he was the stunt coordinator. So right off the top, you know this movie is going to be heavy in the action. It's going to be a lot of kills, a lot of great fight sequences, action, and things of that nature. So we have a director who's heavy with the action genre. So this is like the reason why this movie is number 3 on my list. Looking forward to this one. It has a July 15th release date, I believe. And like I said, it's number 3 for me. I'm looking forward to it heavy. I'm excited about the actual storyline and the fact that it has such a blockbuster cast of all these different people playing assassins. So I think this one's going to be a win. All right, so coming in at number 2, we have Mission Impossible 7. So this movie is the 7th installment of the Mission Impossible franchise. These films are my second favorite franchise, second only to the MCU. I love action, thrillers, spy, mystery type movies, and of course, the Mission Impossible series fills that void for me, takes that second spot. So in this particular movie, I'm pretty sure the whole entire world is going to be on the line. There might be some sort of a nuclear threat, or maybe even some type of a virus or something like that. There is no official synopsis that says what the film is about just yet, but that's what the Mission Impossible films are always about. Tom Cruise, of course, reprises his role as Ethan Hunt, and of course he does his own stunts. He comes back once again to put on a great performance in this particular movie. He always does well in the role, so I'm looking forward to seeing him again as Ethan Hunt in this particular film. The movie is going to be directed by Christopher McQuarrie, the same guy who did Rogue Nation and Mission Impossible Fallout. Those 2 movies were both excellent. Like, I enjoyed them, especially Fallout. Like, Fallout is the joint, and I'm looking forward to see what he does with this particular movie. He did so well with Rogue Nation and Fallout that Part 7 and Part 8 were announced at the same time. They were announced that both movies are going to be done, and they were initially going to film them back to back. But of course, because of the pandemic and all the stuff with COVID, that wasn't able to happen. So I'm looking forward to seeing Mission Impossible 7. The movie has a release date that's slated for September 30th of this year. Mission Impossible 7, my number 2 most anticipated film of this year. And my number one most anticipated movie of this particular year is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Now, of course, if you saw Spider-Man No Way Home, you saw how crazy that preview was at the very end of the film. And just seeing the trailers for this particular movie, the fact that he has to go to Wanda Maximoff because he needs her help in trying to contain the multiverse, and then seeing that they had this evil version of Doctor Strange who's going to be the villain, and seeing him say, things just got out of hand. And that's the particular character from the What If cartoon, the animated show on Disney Plus. Like, I'm like, wow, I'm hyped. I never thought they would take one of those what if characters and bring them into the live action. And sure enough, they did it. And Benedict Cumberbatch, he's such a good actor. Obviously, he's gonna be playing both roles. So I am hyped and intrigued to see this actual movie. There's speculation that we might see the X-Men or Professor Xavier or all these other different Marvel characters might appear in this particular film. There's hype and speculation that we might even see a variant version of Tony Stark, played by Tom Cruise. And I'm like, man, I'm just hyped about that. So this is my number one film that I'm looking forward to, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I can't wait to see what they do with this. I'm so there that there is here. I will physically have to go there to be here for the actual movie. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Number one for me. All right, so I'm Emperor Cole for MindBender Entertainment, and this has been my top 10 most anticipated movies of 2022. If you enjoyed this list, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel for more content. And of course, make sure you hit the comment section. Let me know what your top 5 or your top 10 movies that you're anticipating for 2022 as well. Of course, make sure you follow MindBender Entertainment on Twitter at MindBenderEnt. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at MindBender_entertainment. Follow us on Facebook at MindBender Entertainment. And of course, make sure you check out the website, MindBenderEnt.com. And remember, the future is now.